All right, we are live, and the New York Mets are doing New York Mets stuff to us late at night, which is never a good thing. Everyone a little bleary eyed this morning and a little tired, but ready to rock for the very next day. Why? Because, as always, we have our Coors Lights at our side and in our mouths ready to go. Because it's the beer that's made to chill, and it's the beer that's going to get us through every Mets season for the rest of our lives as we do this podcast, for better, for worse, or for Metsy. And
it really
we're
is
rock
like
and roll.
taking bows. It really is like taking bows. It's like it's this lifelong commitment, and it's really till death do you part.
Yes, it is. So summer is about over. Some would say the baseball season's about over, depending how you feel. We have, you have your summer playlist. It's basically your Labor Day playlist at this point, Labor Day weekend, early one, waking up. I am wearing a hoodie right now because it's football. You getting a little bit of football weather up there in the sticks, Clancy, now that you're of the
Bro,
higher...
yesterday was like 900,000 degrees. Are you kidding me?
Yesterday I'm saying today is like it's 64 when I was
Last week we had that 59 when we woke up. I saw that 5 handle and I was like, oh baby. But a little tease, there's always going to be, it literally flipped. It went from 59 to 95 in a week. I can't handle this.
Can't handle it. That's why you need your Coors Lights. Those Blue Mountains will keep your heart and soul as cool as those crispy fall-like mornings, and get yourself your summer playlist. You can play whatever you want to play just to stay awake at night. I was saying no sleep till Brooklyn, Insomniac, any of that stuff. Get your summer playlist. Get your Coors Light. Put them down. So amplify your chill this summer with Coors Light. Choose chill. Choose Coors Light. Go to CoorsLight.com/believe to see how Coors Light can amplify your summer. And be sure to keep an eye out on Coors Light's social handles all summer long for more exciting announcements. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Well, boys, this time last week, I don't remember this. Two things. I said it was last week, this episode of this time last week, it was fresh off the Jesse Winker walk-off, and I said, I can't wait I said, can you imagine if we recorded this podcast a series before, now a week later, after I asked what would be a good road trip, and we said 3-4, 4-3, and we're locked into at worst 3-4 right now. How we feeling, fellas?
A famous Houston rapper once said numbers never lie, but they do. Because there is a 3-4 and there's a 4-3 that does not tell the full tale of said games. And, I just don't know why it ever surprises me. It doesn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me, but I don't know why it still hurts. How long, how many years will this continue to kill me? Like I said it the other day, what's the date right now? It's the 29th. So when was 26th, 27th, whatever was the first one, the San Diego walk-off? And I said that's the latest in the season that it's ever taken for a Mets game to crush me. Like there was bad losses in the beginning and it was getting me physically like ill, but it took till almost September for a Mets game to rip my heart out and stomp on it and throw it in the garbage disposal and tear it up. And I was like, wow, like maybe, I'm improving. But man, that game, that was the big one. And it felt like every other big one that we've ever felt. And I'm just like, I want off the roller coaster. I either want to win or I want to be done. Or I want the roller coaster to break and just like, phew, I just like fall off a cliff and I fucking die because I can't do it, man. I can't. And you see it coming. The big argument right now, people like, your $100 million closer has to be able to get those outs. And I'm like, yes, you're right. But anybody who thought that was going to be a good 4-out save, it's just like, it just wasn't ever going to happen. And you could either be realistic and honest about that, or you can keep banging your head against the wall and just keep putting your hand in the pot of boiling water and doing it to yourself. Like there's a lot of, Diaz sucks and the bullpen's not available. And there's a million Mendoza's over managing, but it's just like, it all comes down to like, it just still crushes every fucking time. And we knew it. But we know it. It's like we talked about the big one. That text, I said, was that the big one? That was pretty bad. Walk off. We were about to take 3 or 4. That's a huge difference. Walk off against Diaz. That's big one material. And everyone agreed. Not yet. A couple days later, big one. They did the big one.
Kyle, as you're kind of the face of the West Coast misery of the podcast, just because you were infamously awake for that Dom Smith game, to the point where Kevin and I were laughing at you for staying awake to watch your team.
I was laughing. I felt bad for that man. That was sickening.
Yeah. So, how are we feeling this morning, pal?
It was the big one, not just because of the walk-off. It was the big one because we were getting perfect gamed. Like, it looked like there was no offense to be found, and we were just going to lose. That was going to be another, like, mundane, like, 4-0 loss. Wouldn't have mattered. Wouldn't have hurt as bad. But
no, I wanted that.
All the way back and take the lead, and then Maton comes in, and then they let him get one more batter for no fucking reason. Not that it would have mattered, but, like, if Diaz has a clean inning versus coming in and having no idea where the ball is going, there was never any outcome other than either he lets up that grand slam or he hits him or walks him in, and it's a tie game and we lose anyway. It wouldn't have mattered how we were going to lose. We were going to lose. And to stay up that late and to do the West Coast game and to watch us win every time the Braves win and lose every time the Braves lose, and now we're losing and the Braves are winning, like, the math's not mathing. There's not enough games left in the season for us to go on a run and then hope that they also fall off.
That was very shades of 2022, where it was like we were always parallel to them and can't.
It's just compounding. Like, yeah, we lost the game, but it's just like the body of work for this last month of being like every fucking time we have an opportunity, we don't capitalize. That's where it's killing people the most, because it's like we have no closer, we can't close games, and we can't finish.
And just, you don't even get the Braves insurance where it's like, hey, if they get hot, at least we're beating the teams that are above them. And if they slip in September and we get hot, we can pass them. But then we're coughing games away that we should win. Now we go to the youngest of the panel, who still has plenty of battle scars in his heart, and he lives in the baseball internet. So Phil, with a brand new microphone, may I add? So we have this might be the perfect time for Dark Phil to come out, but we have a regular Phil.
So you're talking about the Braves, winning. I want to say something. Fuck the Minnesota Twins, because every time in my life I've rooted for the Minnesota Twins to win a baseball game, whether it's versus the Yankees or the Braves. They don't just lose; they lose in uncompetitive fashion in a blowout. I just want to say, fuck the Minnesota Twins when they go to the playoffs and lose in the first round of the wild card series, and people are like, "Oh, these aren't the same old Twins. They have a chance this year." No, they're gonna fall flat on their fucking face, losing 2 games to the Yankees, whoever. So fuck the Twins. The Braves keep winning. Now let's go to the Mets. Those 2 Mets losses on Sunday. Sunday felt like the worst loss of the season at that point. Last night's the worst loss of the season. And look, I know they've blown like 5-0 leads, 5-0 to the A's, 5-0 to the Astros, 5-0 to the Nats. Those hurt, but these are the teams we're chasing in the standings, so they count for double. Let's say we win that San Diego game, we're 3 games back of them in the loss column instead of 5. Let's say we win both these games, now we're 2 back in the loss column instead of the 5 we are now. So yeah, we can go 4-3 win today, and then we're just gonna sit there being like, damn, we should have won 6-1, and that would have been a huge turn.
And not only is yes to everything you said, but there is like it feels like the bullpen is fucked. Like we know Diaz is going through, at the very least, an old Diaz streak. And, is it going to be a couple more weeks? Is it going to be another month? Because up until that, I think his August was actually very good. Up until
1.54 ERA since coming off the IL. That's a 2-month stretch.
Right. So,
and he had the 2 bad games at the worst times.
Our $100 million closer isn't doing it. It's like, but he was like, and let's get a few things clear. 2022 is never happening again for Edwin Diaz or maybe any reliever ever again. At the very least, your first season back from a blown up leg and a torn patella, you're not going to be your best self. And I did not follow through with this request, but someone told me on Twitter, go look up every pitcher who's torn his patella and look at like his post-surgery numbers. And they're just like never the same. So, like I said before, like we can yell because he has a big contract, or we can just be realistic about the situation. You know, he was coming off the best season ever and really like 2 really good seasons. We desperately, as a franchise, needed one. At the time, it was a big contract, but it was like we were saying, hey, we figured it out. We finally checked that box. Everybody was fine with that contract then. So hindsight's 2020 on this one. And maybe he's never the same at all. Maybe it takes him a couple years to get back to good. But like, this is the reality of the situation. So, I don't want to put it all on him because obviously there's a lot of other problems, but it is like,
it's not even
it's
like
every other closer
he's
situation,
sharp.
every other bullpen the Mets have had. When you don't have that lockdown at the end, it always leaves the door open, and you always end up getting just fucked. And I'm sure, if you were to go through every time that they bring in somebody for a 4-out save, I'm always like, this is a bad idea. This is a bad idea. And sometimes it works, and you don't remember those ones, like unless they really vividly stick out. There was a couple in 2022 that were like awesome. For the most part, you just go, oh, okay, it worked out, and you always remember when it didn't work. So it is a little Monday morning quarterback, hindsight 2020, but I didn't feel good about that for 1 fucking millisecond. And you always know.
I was going to say, there's been 3 times this year where he's gone more than 3 outs. He went 6 outs versus the Cubs all the way back in April. I'm not even going to count that. He went 4 outs versus the Twins last month. Okay, it's the Twins. They stink. And then the Pirates game back last month when they brought him in for multiple outs.
Right.
He blew that game, and Lindor had to bail it on into 9th inning anyway.
Right.
So,
that's what you don't remember because we got bailed out. But like, you just know it sometimes in your bones when you've been watching this long. And it wasn't like, they could have left him in. I didn't think it was like, oh boy, I think it was, deep fly ball, but it wasn't to me like, get this guy the fuck out of there. We just survived by the skin of our teeth. I think he could have been fine. But, if Diaz was going to pitch that way, we're fucked. But I guess my point is just like, yeah, I don't know. Diaz, the Diaz situation is bad. And part of it is his fault. Part of it is this fucking WBC injury. And it'll probably just never be the same. And those are the things that make me say to myself, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Like, Steve Cohen is great. He is doing everything we need him to do. He's overhauling the franchise inside and out, on the field, off the field. He's going to make the fan experience great from a fun point of view and from a player point of view. And Stearns is like this amazing wheeling and dealing guy who never sits on his ass. He's always, oh, you had a bad game, you're out. You had a good game, you're in. Wheeling, dealing, but you can't, those guys can't do anything about the WBC just ruining and mentally ruining your fucking guy. Like, you can't, there's nothing to be, you can't say like, well, you should have known that your $125 million perfect closer was just going to end up reverting back to his absolutely terrible self. It's just, it just doesn't matter, man. And you can have an MVP, and you can have Iglesias can have this amazing season out of nowhere. And it just still even when the breaks are going your way, it just doesn't matter. It's never enough. It's never enough. And I don't know what would be enough. You got to go get Juan Soto, end a pitcher, end of this, end of that. Because at this point, it's what would it fucking take to overcome this shit?
I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a sunny disposition on this entire
thing.
Oh,
fuck you.
I told you before we went live, and I have no problem being honest here. These last 2 games especially, I was like, I'm going to lay in bed. If I fall asleep, I fall asleep. If I wake up, watch, see what happens. That fucking beautiful game on Tuesday night, got to watch that. That was nice.
You know what, Clem is?
I was out.
You are the Manny Machado of this panel, where you're like, I know how to manage myself. I'm gonna, I'm just gonna lollygag to first base, because if you want me here every week for this podcast, I gotta manage my body, and I know what I can and can't do. And that late night one is not gonna happen for me. It does make a difference. We've talked about this before. When you miss a big loss, you don't overreact and lose your mind as much, so you're not probably feeling as bad.
I remember early last year when you guys were counseling after that Brewers series, and I was in Disney, and I was like, guys,
yes,
we're looking great right now. Granted, the season was an absolute disaster, and you guys were right to fucking throw up the red flags, but we were good for another month after that, and then it all fell apart from there on out. But I woke up and I saw that I think it was a 2-0 game early, and then I went back out. Then I saw we were tied it up or we went ahead. And then I saw a final score 8-5. And I saw you guys had a text thread, and all I saw was the Mendoza line about how you couldn't bring in Nunez. I'm like, bullpen must have just kind of blew it in like the middle, like what bullpens fucking do. So I'm coming in thinking we're going to be all right, boys. It's 3-3, 3-4, 4-3 West Coast trip, like we said. Go beat up on the White Sox, which we know won't happen, as Kevin has laid out for years on this podcast.
Absolutely
and
not.
then we have baseball in September. Meaningful games in September. Jeff Wilpons jerking off to that fucking saying right now. Boys, we made it to football season. It's cold outside. We're doing our fantasy drafts. It's beautiful. So this team got us the summer. They're going to get us the rest of the way. I'm not saying it's going to be fun. I know it's not going to be easy. But here we are, boys. This is exactly where we need to be. And I'm telling you, I am. You know what? You're talking about managing your body, Kev. I'm just going to take off that Brave series. I'm not going to watch a pitch of that Brave series. But we're going to get to that Brave series. Do you think the baseball gods are going to let us off the hook for being 7 games behind? And then we have that Brave series. Everything will mean. It will mean everything to us. They might even let us go ahead in the standings at that point, or let us be tied. Then it'll be a sweep. We'll be 3 behind. Council season over.
We will for sure be, if we sweep the Braves, we'll be tied. That's what it will be going into that series. And people will get somehow in their mind, like, we can do it. And then we'll get, like, obliterated game 1. and then it'll just be a wrap after that. Of course, that's what's going to happen. I'd rather it, much like last night, like, I would have rather just continued to lose that game 4-0, 5-1, whatever it was. That's we lost the game. Same way, I'd rather them just like go on a losing streak now than continue to tease, because I can't, like, the console usually like sets you free, but I've still paid attention and I've still given them my heart, and I want to be free one way or the other. Like I said, I want off the roller coaster. I either want it to end and we get we're serving cake and punch, or I just don't ever want to get on the fucking dragon coaster ever again.
It's like particularly hard about this version of the team because they can beat any team on any given night. They just show up and you're like, oh, this is the good version of the Mets, because you don't know what you're going to get until they start to play. They could blow them out 8-0. They could do whatever they need to do. It's more so like we don't have a closer, so we can't, like, if this team gets into the playoffs, anything could literally happen because you don't know what's going to happen. It's just you don't have the pieces to have a full resume left to get that body of work to get to the playoffs. And that was what drove it home last night, is like you have a closer who doesn't have confidence and doesn't have control. Those are the 2 things you need from a closer to put him in the game when you need to. And you still have to play the Phillies and the White Sox. Honestly, it's at least you're able to go look at the White Sox and go, well, it could be much worse, because
that's
that
the only thing.
robbery. Before that happened, though, they threw the ball down to second base in between innings. The second baseman looked down, looked back up, crushed him right in the nose. Like, it is a full-on comical circus going on there right now. And
that
lo and behold, we will go play them, and we will absolutely do some Metsy shit, and that'll end the season.
Let me look right now. Let me find out. Phil, you
have
probably know off the
103
top
losses.
of your head. Huh?
They have 103 losses.
How many in a row? Like, what's their last, like, 10 to 15?
They had a 20-something game losing streak.
Yeah, like, is that still going
1 and 9.
No.
1 and 9 in their last 10.
1 and 9 in the last 10. I'm sure
We're catching them during a hot streak. 1 and 9 in their last 10.
I'm gonna just look at their like August. Like,
yesterday was a doubleheader. The game before, they were winning and they got suspended for the rain. They had to restart it.
Did you see there was like 18 people in the entire stadium too for the restart? It was rough.
When you get a walk-off home run rob like that, does it really hurt? Like, does being like 31-103 or 32-102 make that much of a difference?
Yeah, that's the question.
They won 3 games this month.
Oh my God.
They won 3 games this month, and then going back to July,
I think it's 4 games total in the second half.
I think I'm more scared of this White Sox series than this West Coast.
That's what I'm saying.
So, yeah, like, they won 4 games in this second half. I mean, it's just L after L after L if you scroll through. And, yes, they're bad. Yes, they're going to break the record, I think, probably.
And they get Tyler McGill on Friday.
Yeah, but they're not going to lose 140 games, so they're going to get some wins somewhere. And guess where they're gonna come, folks? Like it's time. You don't people even when you lose 15, you get into like territory like 20, like historic territory, but then you squeak out wins and like they're due for another baby. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
God damn it. This fucking team just will not let us go easily. Just will not let us go easily into the night. So today, I mean, is it even a must win? Or is it like, just give me something? I just want to
I'm just glad I don't have to stay up again.
Yeah, that's
That's all. That's a moral victory.
I mean, you're into like must win territory like every night now. It's just like too many teams, too few games. The teams ahead of you are also like good, like you got the Braves are, a storied franchise. The Padres have always been stacked and just like waiting to put it together. And the Diamondbacks are, the big on the come up. And it's like,
we're only a game ahead of the Giants too. This is going to be a 3-team race down to the wire.
Yep. I just look at, I'm not
Cubs.
I look at those 4 teams. I'm like, which is the one that's likely to falter? And it's probably us,
The Cubs had
like
they pulled one out of their asshole too. So it's like if you have another team like that, who I will say, I'm happy the Black Cat. There was wins after the Black Cat.
We were good right away, right off the rip. We had some big wins.
We're past the Black Cat.
Yes,
we could not. Yeah, like with that I was happy to just be like, she's not good luck, she's not bad luck, but we're just putting that to bed. It doesn't matter, bro. There could be 1,000 Black Cats. There could be 1,000,000 fucking mushes. It just all leads to the same. All roads lead back to the same spot of just misery and heartache. And it might come early, it might come late. Sometimes it comes early and late.
See,
Just
there should be something freeing about that, though, and I don't know what it is.
No,
like
that's
baseball.
That's the word I was looking for earlier. Like, when will I just be set free? I feel like fucking the genie in Aladdin. I need somebody to wish for me to be free, and then I get to go. Leave me alone.
I was pretty fucking close to being there this season, unfortunately. And then we had like the most unreal set of like memes and ridiculous shit happen. And
it was so fun then.
Yeah.
Even if it was just winning, if they just won a bunch of games, I would have been like, yeah, it's a long season. They got a hot streak. But when the juju started, I was like, oh, A, juju matters. B, I don't want to miss the fun in the juju because that's like hard to come by.
Yep.
So then you get sucked back in and it's just always for nothing. And everybody on the outside knows it. They all go, the Mets are going to Mets. And everybody on the inside knows it as well. We're like, yeah, the Mets are going to Mets. But it's just crazy the difference that a few games or a week can make. Like, again, like you said, if we did the podcast on this day instead of that day, it would have been a totally different vibe. A minute ago, we're talking, I think Lindor's going to win the MVP. What do you think? Is the DH going to win it or is Lindor going to win it? Because down the stretch, we're going to make it and blah, blah, blah. And now it's, we got, who was it? I think, who said that Manaea is pitching like Jacob deGrom? I think it was Iglesias.
Nimmo.
Yeah, Nimmo. I was like, bro. I mean, he's great. Let's slow down. But it was all positivity and walk-offs and winkers and flexing and then it just goes.
Clem, if you were awake for yesterday's game, do you think you would have consoled in the moment?
No.
You both still haven't.
No,
Clem doesn't. Clem doesn't because he's a fraud and a liar and a phony.
That's what you said when the darkest hour was upon us, and then somehow the skies fucking turned blue. The sun came out.
Yes. Listen,
and you assholes came back to us. You guys came back to us.
No, because here's the thing. Somebody tweeted me and said I've been following for a while, but I don't know. I don't know what the console is. So let me clear that up for people who don't know. I've told it a few times, but if you're new to the show, back in like what is that? 2008, 9, the Indians traded Sabathia at the deadline to the Brewers. And I had a bunch of friends who are Indians fans, and they, on the group text, this one guy said, cancel the season, because he was trying to say cancel the season, but he is borderline illiterate and doesn't know how to spell or use phrases properly. Another one of his famous ones is he says human being, like frijoles, like bean, not being. He thinks they're human beings. Things like that. And so Kunzel was just like, we were all laughing hilariously about it. And then it became this thing of, well, he knew in that moment that without Sabathia, the Indians were cooked. And the same way, it's when you know your team is out of it and you just can't, that you don't watch on the edge of your seat every night, like ready to punch a hole in the wall when you lose, because you've just accepted the fact that they're probably not going to make it. And people still don't get the point of like, and then after that, you hope you're wrong and you want to watch it. You can't uncancel, but you want to watch it and be like, I was wrong. And they did do it. But the point of the cancel is you got to be honest with yourself when you actually feel it and know it. And I know you, Clem. I know you, Clem. I know you're smart enough to know, and I know you feel it in your heart sometimes that it's over and you just won't say it. Nope. Look the other way.
Damn, I was looking the wrong way. I thought I had it.
Yeah, look the other way, and I'll look at this. You are a fucking liar. I know that at some of those moments, if we strapped a polygraph on you and you said, have you consulted in your heart and in your mind yet? Are you in Consolina? And you said no, that thing would go off.
Don't know what you're talking about, Clancy. Me and Phil holding hands. We were holding hands. It got dark. You know, sometimes you just need some companionship.
You're the biggest liar of all because you watch ball every fucking night. And I know you know what a playoff team looks like and feels like. And I know that you know this ain't it.
Well,
even just the hand gestures, like that the odds are not in your favor. I was making the point today when I made the recap video. You always wait for the big one. I've never seen a season where there hasn't been one. Like we've never won. So if you're lucky, you get to go to the final series of the season. But it happens eventually, no matter what.
Right. There's always a console. It could be Game 7 of the World Series, but eventually it happens.
Yeah.
Well, last night was not the big one for me because I didn't see it. So guess what, boys? I saw the box score. I know what happened. I didn't go on YouTube to see what happened. I'm not a fucking sicko. I'm fine. I'm going to be all right.
What do you think was the big one in 22? Like, it's all relative. Obviously, there wasn't a big one. But I think I know. I mean, the playoff series itself was, a nightmare. Trent Grisham was the big one. But at that point, you're in the playoffs, and it's like, whatever. I know what I think. I think my big one.
The DeGrom start versus the A's.
It's the DeGrom start versus the A's, or you could say it's the last Braves game that weekend.
The Dragons.
The night of House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
It's one of the other.
Who's homeboy who was great for us? It was like
Bassett.
Wins.
Bassett.
Yes. That start with the Braves was a really bad one, and like we were fucked. But the Bassett in the moment when I knew he couldn't locate and he was nibbling, and then every time he did put it over the plate, he just got creamed. That was probably the big one for the season in the moment. But like in hindsight, like that DeGrom A's start, that A's series was when, because we would have that Brave series maybe wouldn't have even mattered or we would have been ahead or whatever it was. Yeah, that one, that was the big one. So even in your greatest season, that was the greatest season we ever lived through. Even that has a big one or two.
So again, maybe it never happened. Maybe last night never happened, and we just get to move on with our day. Just
what'll be fun?
One in the standings. Just one in the standings.
One day, probably not, but the big one will mean the World Series. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like that's what like winning teams like, hey, did you win the big one? And ours is like we have a big one every year. It's just not your big one. Yeah. The Patriots had a million big ones, and it's like one day we might be able to say that was the big one, and a parade comes after it. But until then, every single year there's a big one that ruins your season.
Every single team, 29 to 30 teams have a big one during the season. Yeah. And sometimes it does happen in the World Series. Lucas Duda, air mailing was our big one, right? I just killed Phil by saying that. I'm sorry, but I should have prefaced it. But usually if you make the World Series, you've made it that far, and then it comes. It comes in some form, one way or another. It's like fucking Gozar, the Marshmallow Man might be the big one. You don't know where it's going to come from. And then the one team that wins, though, they get to hit the fucking the button at the end of the movie that stops the bomb from going off.
You know what it is? It's the voice or X Factor or whatever, and you hit that golden one.
Yeah.
All the fucking things come down. That's what everyone else gets to hit. We're the opposite. Everyone else hits the button and wins the trip to Hollywood, we are the suicide vest guy who lets go of the button. We're holding on. We're holding on to the season, and we might get there, and then like somebody shoots him, and he just goes clap. Boom! Everybody dies.
From opening day on, the Mets are just trying to fight off the big one. Like every team is like trying to win the World Series. We're trying not to lose the World Series starting in game one. At least it feels that way. But luckily, boys, if you happen to, not have other sports that you love, we have college football season. So we had the appetizer last week. Now it's time to feast. College football is back. Don't miss any of the action. Jump in at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's a full slate of games for week one, including the big matchup in Atlanta between the preseason number 1 and number 16. It's super easy for first timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. This is going to be DraftKings' biggest college football season to date. Enjoy the ride now all the way through the expanded playoffs. And for all the newbies getting into the college spirit, here's something extra. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So listen up, everybody. Score big with DraftKings all college football season long. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code BELIEVE. That's code BELIEVE for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Load up that pool.
I also do that.
And bet through the season.
Sorry, I also do the pick six is a cool one that I just got into. Yeah, it's a cool concept of like you pick 6 different bets of anything from the same sport, if you will, but it's, how many strikeouts, how many total base hits, and you just kind of pick, 6 total bets. It's a fun one as well. You can download the pick six app.
I had a buddy texted me this morning saying our other friend hit a parlay. He needed the grand slam against the Mets and he needed the Janko home run robbery. And
he got it?
Yeah.
Wow. Like specifically like a grand, just like those games to win.
No, like he needed the Mets to lose, and he needed the Rangers to win for those two.
Yeah,
and both of those happened.
The big one, the good version of the big one. Yeah. Somebody right there.
Yeah,
Holy cow. Oh man, I can't believe we just live in a world where we just can just check stuff off your own. Like tick, 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 tick. These 6 things. Yeah. Let's ride. God bless. So this is what I wanted to say to the pod or present to the pod after last night in particular. And let's be honest, it could go a different way the next month. So hopefully this isn't the last gasp of the season. But if the Mets don't make the playoffs, but say they finish, 84, and what is that? 84 and 78?
Yeah.
And don't make the wild card, would you say this was a successful season?
No.
I would say no. I mean, that's some loser shit. We really can't. We should be beyond that. Like in the Cohen era, I don't think you can be saying that. I think you can say that this was a surprisingly no. This is a fucking failure. Just fucking no. I'm not doing that anymore. That's some Wilpons shit. I was about to say they surprised us and they gave us good ball when we thought we were going to be. I thought I wasn't going to watch. Starting in May, I was like, I'm not watching this team, and they ended up giving me a lot of fun, entertaining baseball, and that is all true. But I'm not talking about a win. Is this a winning? Or is this a successful season when you're talking about 70 or 80? Something wins. It's just not. We're beyond that.
There's more negatives than positives you take away from it. Like okay, right. Mark Vientos established himself as a major league player. I take that as a positive. A negative, we wasted Francisco Lindor's we're wasting his prime years pretty much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, we had low expectations
I will
going
say
into the season.
Yeah.
And then we had Severino went back to his old self. He's pitching well. Minaya came out of fucking nowhere. Vientos. But then you have Alonso down season. Alvarez power outage. Like there were people that we were banking on that we thought were going to be good who didn't show up versus the other guys that should be like found money. Jose Iglesias. No one even saw him coming.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're not gonna have a season.
That's why baseball sucks so much dick. That's why baseball just sucks a big dick because next year Jose Iglesias ain't doing this again.
Right.
And next year, Lindor might not be an MVP. I think he's pretty much established that he'll do this forever. But is he going to give you 8 WAR? Probably not. Is someone else going to get injured? Probably yes. Is Minaya gonna, and Peterson gonna be throwing complete game shutouts and shit? Probably not. So. It's baseball is just all about all of it coming together in one season at the right time. And it happens for somebody always every year, but it never happens for us. Like it just never aligns. When we need pitching, we have hitting. When we have hitting, we need pitching. When we need we go get a closer. Well, then this starting pitching sucks. So we go get a starter, and by that time, the bullpen's old and battered. And then we get bad injuries when we need luck, and then we have bad luck when we're healthy, and it just never all lines up. And that you can't buy. That's the shit where Cohen is just like you can only get him so far.
Okay. So I don't think any of you guys are wrong with that response. Now, if you look back at this season, will you have warm memories in you, or will you be like, like how I honestly, like down the road from now, like 5 years from now, no matter where this franchise goes, I'll look back at the 24th season and be like, it was pretty fucking fun when it happened. It was unexpected. And 23 was so bad. I will never look at 23 other than like one of the worst seasons I've ever experienced as a Met fan, which is saying something, Kev, because of based on all the stuff we've gone through, as you said, and off of 22, which was magical, which is only going to get better in my mind. It's going to be like I was getting blowjobs every morning, afternoon, and night. Like that's how I feel when I look back at 22. It was just perfect.
But you know what? This is funny you say that though, because this is actually very interesting. I look back at 22 as not fun. I think of it. It was stressful. It was a war. It was fun, but it was like a war of attrition. And it was like every night. And I can't believe the Braves keep winning. And then I look at this season as bad, but fun. Like I think the Grimace shit was funny. The surprising, comeback was magical. Lindor has been great to watch.
OMG.
But I think OMG
Seymour
was amazing.
Wiener,
Iglesias fielding off the field, rally pimp. Seymour Wiener was like so funny. It's just, but I think that's how I think if I was watching this season at the age of 29, 30, 31, or even in 2022, I think this would have been like killing me and crushing me, but I'm learning and maturing and progressing as how I consume this team. And so I let a lot of the good in and kept a lot of the bad out. So while it'll be disappointing in the end, I will remember the freaks and the people throwing fucking hot dogs at that guy and the good stuff, even though the end result was bad. Whereas that 2022 season, I was like, oh my God, my palms are sweating every night. I'm stressed. I'm weak. I'm tired. So, you're right. I'll probably think of more good than bad this year, but that's more of a sign of, that's again, it's kind of some loser shit.
Tempered expectations as a fan.
Yeah. It's like Linsanity with the Knicks. It's like, yeah, you got two good weeks with the point guard and you guys, that was your season. Shit like that. It's like, yeah, I understand I sound like a loser, but it was more like enjoyable per se.
Yeah, no, it's fair. We're also sports fans, which is the dumbest shit of all time, right? It's like when people get on, if I'm a Star Wars fan, Star Wars is like, you guys root for people you don't know who are playing a game that's just made up. It's not like an actual important thing. We've just decided it's important because we like it. And it's become this huge thing through the years and whatever. And it's a big business. And we just like it. Everything that people do for fun is essentially stupid as fuck. Kyle, how are you feeling about this season? Because this is also my other comparison. The 2019 season had its moments where the scooter and the big man, and it was like that. I can't believe we're going to do it. That team won 86 games that year, which does not feel like it, right? Because it wasn't great. We beat up on all those bad teams. We knew it was probably fugazi, but in the end, we got our, we had some fun in August, and that's all you can really ask for. So I think this
no, we got to ask for more than that, Clem.
Oh yes, we will. Next year will be. This year was always a transition year. You have to remember, two of the biggest fucking figures on this payroll are Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. We knew going into this season we were kind of fucked. So I'm kind of like, I thought this season was going to be so much worse that I'm like at least happy that it didn't. That March and April did not bleed into July and August. So that's kind of where I'm coming from without even knowing what September brings. Kyle,
there was a time where we thought they were going to just sell off at the trade deadline. So the fact that we're even here talking about this is like they went on that run. It was a lot of fun.
Right, but that's what I mean. It's like
it's always in retrospect looking back, because in retrospect looking back, there's years that I don't even remember. Like at all.
Mhm.
There's just like a stretch of time in like 2013 to whatever. It's just like the team was bad. Gun to my head, I couldn't tell you who was on that roster. Will this team be like that? I don't know. I think I'm gonna remember OMG more than I'm gonna remember Jose Iglesias' name. But like, unless you find a way to like get it down to the wire and get into a wild card spot, it's just gonna go out with the wash. There's so many Mets teams that are like this, where it's like you have one or two. This year we had more than that, like fun side stories.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, like you're watching so many games and you're dedicating so much time to a team where like at the end of the day is like, you're telling me 2019 had 86 wins. If we don't get to 86 wins with this team, what the hell are we doing?
That's true. That's fair. How about you, Philip?
What are we on pace for?
Like Tacoma usually tweets that after every
84 or 83.
So I usually will look back at a season better depending on who wins the World Series this year. Like if the Yankees or Braves or whoever wins the World Series this year, I don't want to think about 2024. Same way I don't think about the years like 2029, 2021. I try to block those from my memory. If it's a random team like if it's like the Dodgers or Astros win the World Series this year, I'll look back at our memories like, oh, okay, we were a solid team, but we were never going to beat the Astros or Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a weird thing in my mind.
No, that's a fair way to put it.
No,
Kyle,
that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Kyle, like you said, the late 2000s to anything basically before 15 is just like early years of Citi Field, depression, David Wright slowly dying, guys like Lucas Duda coming up, and just awful, meaningless baseball. And it's like, oh, but we had the R.A. Dickey year. You have little flare-ups, but gun to head,
Jose Reyes batting title. Yeah,
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Those were February consoles. Those were like, we know, a season when they say like anything can happen in baseball, like, it's like the White Sox were never gonna, there's certain teams are just not gonna be a contender. We had that for like many, many years in a row.
It's like when your wife tests positive on a pregnancy test, but it's like it was a chemical, like there was no baby in there. It was like chemically she'll test positive, but there was no team. There was no Mets team in there. There was no contending Mets team. That's where I'm going.
Jesus
dark.
Christ.
I'm going dark right now.
This season was like a miscarriage.
Those were the Madoff Mets. The Madoff Mets couldn't field the team.
Yes,
exactly. That was disgusting. Yeah, that's a whole other level of gross. But there is something to be said for like, it's like dating someone you're not gonna marry. You're just like, I'm just fucking this chick. Like, I don't care. She's awful. I hate her, but like we're just banging each other and there's no future. Versus like when you think there's a future with someone and it doesn't work, it hurts your soul on a different level.
And in the end, like I probably won't remember the 2024 season, right? Every Mets fan will be like 06, 15, 22. You'll probably have a couple like olds like me, even though 99 they didn't make the World Series. That might have been my favorite team
Love
ever.
99.
I won't be like 24 was the Grimace OMG year, but I'll remember the Grimace and OMG year as being fun during the moment. Yeah. But I will say, coming out of that and this time, hopefully this year and then like next year, I'll be like, that's when I realized all the infrastructure we talked about for 2 fucking years straight started to actually blossom. And David Stearns showed himself as a fucking monster who picked Sean Manaea, Luis Severino, all of Tyrone Taylor, Jose Iglesias. And we're like, all right,
what sucks is like
in the future now.
How many times can a guy like that, can he do that? It's like, I almost think he's done it with so many players this year that it makes me confident that he can just like keep doing that going forward. But that's the kind of stuff I mean. Like, what if next year all the buttons that Stearns pushes don't work? Everybody bounces back and has a good year, but the plug and play from Stearns doesn't match up, and that's where we fall short. But I have very high confidence in Stearns. He's probably one of my biggest takeaways from the infrastructure being like, that guy I trust at least. Maybe it doesn't work, but I think he knows what the fuck he's doing. And will, when we do, God willing, get a team that's, a contender, the deadline will be smart. The call-ups will be smart. You also got to remember that it's like baseball is so long that it's like, Alvarez had a down year and was injured a little bit. Like, he's going to hit his stride and have like, several good years in a row. And maybe fucking, one day Brett Beatty like bounces back through and finds a role on this team or something like there are just so many stories of other people where it's like, we wrote this guy off when he was like 21, 23. And it's like, he found his way when he was 27 or 8. Like that kind of shit can unfold. You just got to wait for it. And nobody wants to wait. Even like somebody was sending me, some asshole sending me Kumar Rocker's fucking AAA starts. And he's like looking good. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen with him, but that's a good example of like, we were all like, get rid of him. And who knows, maybe that guy will be good. It's like, you got to like play to win now while also recognizing that like it takes forever for all the pieces to fall into place. The puzzle takes like 5 years,
Yeah. And I will say the one good thing about Stearns, and this probably isn't the case with guys like Minaya and Severino, but definitely the Taylors and the even the Baders and definitely the Iglesias, it's like, shit or get off the pot. Nope, you're out. We're going to press another button. He keeps pushing buttons, which I appreciate.
Right.
Where the old Mets, especially during the Madoff days, it's like, nope, that guy's on the books. He's going to play until his fucking arms and legs.
If DJ Stewart gets called back up because he's still in the minor league system, if he gets brought back up this season, then we've given up.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the white flag. That is
They did hint of Acuna being the call up in September 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, that was what they say. They were like, we need speed and like a glove or something like that. And everyone,
there's one guy
strong pedigree that has major league experience in the family.
Yeah. Is there anybody else to like even kind of get excited for?
Drew Gilbert, although he was out most of the year, they'd probably be better off letting him play in AAA September. Like he's not going to get every day at bats.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're still like a real lineup, so it's hard to.
Yeah, you can't just give up these spots, but.
The thing that sucks is two things in terms of like looking towards the future. One, guys like Jet has the wrist. I don't want to think it. Is it degenerative? Have they said if it's degenerative?
He's back playing.
He's playing. Okay.
Yeah, he's playing. Jet Williams.
Oh, Jet.
And then obviously Mauricio we lost last year. It's like that guy was like the center of our lives for a month, and then he just.
Yeah, what's going on with him?
He tore his ACL, so he's not playing this year.
But is it like I guess so he would start next season. He can start the season or no?
Yeah, well, he's gonna play winter ball again this year.
Right,
he is.
Yeah,
he's playing the Dominican League again.
Yeah,
I guess
that seems like a bad idea.
He'll probably be in AAA next year or traded. Who knows?
Diaz is going to go pitch for the fucking the World Baseball Classic like warm up team when they're like in the World Cup qualifiers or whatever. It's like, what did go wrong?
Wait till the Olympics come in 2028 for baseball. They have a 2-week gap in the season.
Oh, God.
I'll tell you what. By the way, to just go back to your question, I didn't have an answer as far as to like what I'll remember. Like maybe I won't remember the season. I'm gonna remember it now because I'm gonna remember that it was the time that Clem called the Mets season a miscarriage.
No,
that was like on our other show, Game of Thrones. You guys probably didn't watch Game of Stools. There was one episode where Clem was just talking. He was like, "I love the whores in this episode."
She was awesome. You guys, the
horror episode of Game of Thrones and the miscarriage season of the Mets.
Little podfather's bleeding in here now. We're gonna get real.
God damn, man. Brutal.
We say when you're talking miscarriages in Mets baseball, what do you got to say, boys, for the next week, next month of the season? Gotta believe.
Gotta believe.